it's just nice to know if you have a few people looking out for you, that if something goes down, you're not going to be alone. The only way to do that is to like start building our communities again.
Voices of the Goddess.
Welcome to Voices of the Goddess, where authenticity is our compass and self-love is our North Star.
I'm Julietta, your guide through the realms of healing and self-discovery. As a holistic healer, light worker, way shower, and catalyst for positive change, I walk alongside you on this sacred path of awakening.
And I'm your co-host, Graciela. As a seasoned photographer, Reiki master, sound practitioner, and cacao ceremonialist, I love infusing my artistry with the alchemy of healing and ceremony.
Together, we create a safe space where your authenticity is celebrated, your voice is honored, and your heart is held in the embrace of love.
Join us as we dive deep into soulful conversations and journey towards the essence of who you really are.
Welcome to Voices of the Goddess.
I love that look. Too bad the people on podcast land can't see the look that Graciela was giving.
It was just a look. You know what? I'm having a little bit of espresso right now, so it's about I'm going to talk even faster than I normally talk. I just felt like something warm, and I thought, why not jet fuel?
Yeah, there you go. But speaking of that, so I do listen to this podcast every week when the new episode drops. I listen to it in my car. I listen to a lot of podcasts in my car. And I do that I think I'm on 1.75 speed now.
Oh.
I used to do 1.5, and then I think I bumped up to 1.75. Occasionally I try the 2.0 and then I can't listen. But so we recently recorded a new intro and outro and stuff. And so I listened to it this morning. And of course, I'm listening to it at 1.0 and I'm going, we are talking in slow motion.
That's hysterical. I do know that feeling.
I'm like, I want everybody to talk faster. Can you all please talk faster for me? Like,
I have had that feeling. I do watch like instructional videos, like YouTube instructional videos. Sometimes I put it up at the 1.5. I have gone to, there's one particular person that I have to listen to her on 2.0 because I'll never make it. Like I'll die of boredom waiting in the meantime. It's too much.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know if that's getting older. I don't know if that's just ADHD. I don't know, but yeah.
So speaking of getting older, in my sanctuary here, people come to me very interestingly, people in our age category that are out there doing crazy sports activities and I laugh because they think they're still 25 and they think that their body should just keep working like it's 25. But the thing that they forget to do is like the maintenance on their body, getting their body balanced. I'm like, you go out, you drive your car a cajillion miles and you do the oil change and you do the tire rotation and you get the car aligned and balanced. People take far better care of their cars than their bodies. But they do this because they want their car to keep running. They want it to run smoothly down the highway, da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, your body is no different. The more you use your body, it's going to get out of alignment. It's going to be unbalanced. You got to take your body in for a tune-up. And like, people are constantly searching for the fountain of youth. And that's it. Like, you want to keep doing those crazy extreme sports activities? Fine, do it. But keep your body tuned up so that it's capable of doing those things.
I will tell you though, if you think about it, that's actually a pretty new concept because the way we were raised, you only go to the doctor, like you only bother the doctor when something is wrong. You only seek assistance when something is wrong. We have not been raised on or taught anything remotely close to preventative care, right? for alignment. I mean, I don't think I even heard the word alignment until I was much older, right? No one ever said to me as a kid, you should do this. Now, lucky for me, lucky for my children anyway, I've been taking them like to chiropractors and whatnot since they were little. And so, my daughter comes to the sound bath and they do yoga and all that kind of stuff. But, unless someone tells you, like, you just where we are.
I'm telling you now. But
this
part of it
is
is
your
like
this is your sign.
Our quote unquote healthcare system is really a disease management system.
Yeah.
And like when you look into the ancient practices of health and wellness, it was more in alignment with preventative care. Like you keep yourself well so that nothing goes wrong. I don't know if this is a true story or not, but I heard like in Chinese medicine, like the emperors would have their acupuncturist. And if the acupuncturist didn't keep the emperor well, the acupuncturist was,
Dispatch.
And then they brought the new one in. It's like, keep the man alive, keep the man healthy, or you're in trouble. Yeah. And, but yeah, it was all about maintaining health as opposed to trying to recover from disease, etc.
Yeah.
So,
and in defense of our ancestors, the recent ones, people led much more active lifestyles, farming, walking to work, a town small enough where you didn't need a car because you would walk places. We've eliminated all natural exercise from our lives. A lot
of weird stuff instead to be active.
Well, it's what's available, right? Like it's what's, being sold, right? And so we need more of that preventative care today because we have removed so much, even if you are active, doing crazy active things, you're probably just doing them on the weekend. You're probably just doing them once a month. You're not doing a daily program where your body even has a chance to, take care of itself. So yeah, well, I'm glad you brought this up because there's so many people I know that are in this category.
All right. Are we ready for our guest?
I'm ready.
Let's see if I can do it right this time. There we go. Hello, Robin. Welcome to the show.
Hello, ladies. Thank you.
I love that moody background. If you're listening on the podcast, hop on YouTube. Look at this. It looks very moody. I'm loving it.
Very black light.
I love it.
I'm chilling in my bestie space because it's the quietest spot in the house.
So will you please take a minute to introduce yourself to our audience, tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what keeps you passionate about what you do?
Well, sure. I actually love what you guys were talking about before because it kind of plays right into what I do. I am a disability advocate and service coordinator, and it's what I'm passionate about because I've lived a life that has needed more of that. And I have special needs children. I have a disability. And as they've gotten older, I've seen where the gaps are, where we need more, people to support each other. And so I just started doing it. And I came across you guys because I interviewed one of your previous guests as my first guest on my podcast, about raising special needs kids and dealing with the healthcare system and how it's lacking in so many ways and how we have to self-advocate to get what we need to take care of ourselves the best. And yeah, that's it. It's building community and supporting people. And at its core, that's where I come in with the advocacy. Like, this is what I've done. If it can help you, here I'm sharing. So,
well, it always helps. Sharing always helps. And, I worked as a paralegal for 20 years, and a lot of my clients had been catastrophically injured. That's the legal term, right? For in different accidents and whatnot. So I've seen all sides of the challenges of living with a othered ability, right? In very narrow view of the world, literally. Like, we talk about it all the time, like steps and stairs and openings and spaces and, being heard and not being dismissed. Like, there's so many layers to this field, and I'm so glad to see another, advocate out there, because there just could never be enough. It's exhausting, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
It
And
really is.
I want to make that less of a journey, like a difficult journey for people who are just at the beginning. Because let's be honest, we as a society, we just forget that could be us at any point. You're an accident or an illness away
Oh
from
yeah.
being part of this community, and it's just not talked about enough. And I think the more we talk about it, the more it just makes it part of everyone's norm and everyone's reality, and then we can build empathy from there, because I think that's what it's lacking. If you don't understand it, you can't have empathy for something you don't live unless someone
Absolutely.
points it out. So
Absolutely. So tell us what does your daily work look like? How do people work with you?
I'm still building up like business end of this, but a lot of times it's just someone who has talked to me sends the next person to me, and the next person, the next person. What I do now, I don't actually get paid for. We're working on that. I'm actually going to school to get my BA and possibly social work, so that I can actually bill people through insurance and not ask people that are already struggling to pay for help that they need. But currently, I am involved in planning committees for for a statewide. It's called Circles of Life, and it's a conference that's held once a year for families and caregivers of children with special needs. And so we organize a lot of speakers to come in, and that's a big part of what I do. I also do a podcast called ADA Cafe, and just having those conversations and looking for people who need to tell their story and don't have a platform. So doing that.
You must have a
And
giant waiting list.
not yet, but I only did my
Oh,
first episode in January. So we're getting rolling, and it's starting to go faster than I expected. So
there are so many stories
yeah,
out there.
they're out there, and I want to make that platform available. Um, and then really my biggest job is raising my kids. They all have varied special needs. I have 2 on the spectrum. I have 2 with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Mhm.
So that's my full-time job. That's actually where I do get paid as my eldest caregiver, which allows me to do this passion work because the bills are covered. So
Beautiful.
I think too, like, yes, it's important that we have, programs in place to support all of this. But we've talked about this on other episodes. With just everything in life, we've become so disconnected. And, historically, like if someone in the community needed help, everybody in the community like stepped up to help these people. And, um, you know, modern busy society has disconnected us all, and I really feel like it's important for us to start to come together and check out your neighbors. And I loved now living in Fort Lauderdale. It's a big city. It's been a struggle my whole time down here to ever really get to know any neighbors, but there is an older couple that live across the street. And my boyfriend was out of town this summer. The wife, she asked me, she's like, I haven't seen him around. Is everything okay? And I explained that he was up in Wisconsin for the summer at my dad's cabin. And she's like, oh, if you need anything at all, like come on over and we'd be happy to support you. And I was like, wow, like this, when I grew up as a kid, like all of us as neighbors did look out for each other as a community. And we've just gotten so separated, and like that just felt like so nice and so sweet to actually have a physical neighbor say, if you need anything, reach out.
yeah.
And I feel like we really need to get back to that. And everybody's just like, no, the government's going to handle things and the systems are going to handle everything. And
Nope.
they're not. Like, we need to look out for each other and reach out.
Well, and that's actually where I started some of my advocacy pre-disability, was in the birth community. You see so many women that don't have their family around them, and that's how they got through that, that initial support system. And so I started doing post or prepartum doula work, like helping prepare, because my sister is working towards being a midwife. And so I just kind of like helped her. And by helping her, I noticed that, like you said, there's just not enough local support. And don't get me wrong, having the access online to have the discussions, and that's great. But sometimes you just need someone to come over and bring you a meal, or, maybe switch the laundry for you. And that's just in the birth community. You got people with disability or special needs kids or elderly couples. It's just nice to know if you have a few people looking out for you, that if something goes down, you're not going to be alone, and the only way to do that is to like start building our communities again. And it can be in different areas for different reasons, but we have to do it.
And I'm sure, a lot of it is enforcing a lot of the laws that already exist, right? About ADA accessibility in spaces and things like that. We hosted a conference a while back, and one of the things that someone brought to my attention was that when you publicize an event, you should put at the bottom really clearly whether it's accessible, whether this is a safe space for the LGBTQ community, like little things like that, so that you don't have to go hunting some more to figure out, do I fit here? Am I going to be able to use a restroom? Can I park? Will I be able to access the things that I need? Will I feel safe in this environment?
And I think that's important, because it's hard enough to feel like excluded, but then to show up to something like that, with that expectation of I'm going to be included and then not, it's just an extra hit. And that can really shut people down to reaching out at all.
Sure.
So yeah, it makes a difference.
Yeah. I think that's why it's important that, like when I talk about my boyfriend, I generally say partner, just to let's get used to using the word partner, or even like announcing your pronouns, right? Like get used to creating space for everyone. And that includes announcing yourself as a safe space for, persons of all abilities, right? So you have had a journey of life, and becoming an advocate takes an enormous amount of strength and willpower, I imagine.
Some days. Yeah.
Some days, yeah, some strength. I imagine self-care, I hope, is a big part of your life.
That's something I have to work on.
Well, I always say with self-care, do what you can. If you have 5 minutes, give yourself 5 minutes. If you can carve out 3 days, amazing. But if you just have the 2 minutes at the red light, use it to take a breath, right? Yeah. So here's my question is, what limiting beliefs did you have to let go of to put yourself in a position where you feel comfortable advocating for others? Like, how did you get there?
I actually learned to advocate for myself by doing it for others. And I guess the limiting belief around that would be that boundaries are okay. Selfish is okay. And I did not believe that initially. Like, being selfish from somebody who is selfless gets you to be a doormat unless you do boundaries, unless you learn how to, be okay with saying this is for me and this is not. And that took meeting, a couple people in my life around the time that my marriage ended to just be like, hey, they accept that. They actually encourage that. I like that. Let's keep running with that. And that helped me like kind of jumpstart more vocal advocacy. Prior to that, it was like, there's an issue, I'll deal with it. I'll speak up for my child. I'll speak up for my friend. But there was no past that. Now it's like, okay, that problem is there for people who don't speak it. Now I'm going to say more. And so, yeah, it's not selfish to be selfish.
No, at all. Honestly, it's how you get to continue to do the work,
I'm curious, because we always ask people to recommend a book, and with everything that you have to do, I'm curious if you even have time to read. And if so, do you have a book you can recommend to our audience?
I love reading. I don't do it enough anymore. But it's really funny when you ask that question. I'm like, all right, I'm going to just go look at my shelf and see what jumps out first, because I'm a book dragon. I hoard them more than I read them. But it's really funny that the one I picked, I saw show up on one of your posts. It was the 4 Agreements. And yeah, I think it's one I haven't read for a really long time, but it speaks to me because yes, I need to be impeccable with my word because I'm putting it out there. I'm not just chatting with friends who'll, if I flub up on something that they know me, so really think before you speak. And the disability in general, don't make assumptions because invisible illnesses are a huge thing and a huge reason
Yeah.
advocacy needs to happen. Like I have a handicap access parking. I do not use it all the time, but there are days. But if you look at me, you may not see that. So I'm like, I have to remember that people making assumptions are making them for a reason. But I did that too. So, and that goes into don't take anything personally. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what their education or their experience are. If you want to have the conversation, try and educate them, great. If you don't, just don't take it personally. It has nothing to do with you, what they're thinking, And I think what was the last one? Always do your best. That doesn't have to be perfect. It's just do your best. So
That
that's
part
mine.
too was, I think, is so important because as a recovering perfectionist, we think like always doing our best is doing like what we see is the best. And no, it's really
Yeah.
doing the best that you can at that moment. And it might not always be perfect, but do your best that you can with what you have at that moment. Yeah. The four agreements I feel like should be like mandatory reading for everybody because it's short, it's simple, and if you follow that, like you can't go wrong.
Yeah, it's really solid life lessons is what it is. And broke down into pretty easy to understand. That last one is where I try to give the most grace to myself. I don't expect perfection from anybody else. Why do I expect it from me? So just keep doing your best. And I have to
Yeah,
remind
I
my
love that you
children
say
that a
give
lot.
yourself grace. We all need to
Yeah.
give ourselves more grace.
And I always say, talk to yourself the way you'd talk to a friend. So many times I've resolved a lot of my problems by saying, if I were my friend, what would I say? And I would say such nicer things to my friends than I would to
Yeah.
myself. So I think that's important. I'm curious, what do you find yourself advocating on the most often?
I really have run the gambit. It just depends on who's coming to me, who's asking me. It started with me through my daughter's birth. Like I had to speak up. Educational stuff for my son, like that was a journey in itself. IEPs and learning all that. Accessibility for my eldest because she's now an adult, but she's under guardianship because she needs that. It's really hard for you to get the stuff in place, even as a guardian, because they're an adult. And that assumption that, well, why? Because she's communicative. She's, on the surface, she's got this. But it really is just educating people. I worked as a service dog trainer for a while. And the amount of misinformation that causes issues is huge. So that's when I probably ran into the most heated arguments or the heated, like, really, this is not the reality. And now I got to try and approach people with compassion because they were given the wrong information and they're in. So yeah, I'd say service dog work has been the one where I've been the most, like, I've had to get in the trenches and work with people. Everything else, the schools, that's an individual being a problem, not necessarily the setup, but there's so many opportunities to advocate. Too many sometimes.
So for someone who wants to be an ally to the disabled community, where would you direct them? Like what sort, because you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So what would be a good resource for someone who's, saying, I want to make sure that my place of business or that my home or how I'm showing up in the world is inclusive?
I'd say probably the easily accessible one is look for content creators that are disabled and listen to their stories because they're going to tell you their experiences. And that's where you get the empathy. That's where you can actually see through someone else's perspective. My daughter wants to be a sign language interpreter. So we followed a lot of people who are deaf or hard of hearing. And while I am absolutely an ally and I didn't know things that I didn't know until I started listening to their, stories. You want to just make sure that you're reading, like if you're a reader, an avid reader, go look up books that have disabilities in them, like characters that have it, and just expose yourself more, because the people that are writing them are usually writing them from the perspective of that's their life, but they're putting it into a story. So yeah, I would say just actively look for expanding your understanding of what a disability looks like. And then when you hear what someone has to say, that just kind of makes you think a little bit differently, and it'll usually grow from there.
Yeah.
I know that I'm disabled, but I know that I do not know anything about anything when it comes to most conditions, because I'm not living them. So,
Right.
conversations are the best way.
It all boils down to communication.
Yeah.
One of the, if you'll permit me to share, I have this app on my phone. I don't know if you've seen Be My Eyes. Have you heard of that?
Nope, but if it's a resource, it's going in my book now.
You know what? It is the coolest thing, and it probably has too many volunteers, but I love it. It's called Be My Eyes, and visually impaired people sign up, and then volunteers sign up. And when a visually impaired person needs help, they click a button, and then it sends out like an alert to everybody. Whoever picks it up first, you are then like on a FaceTime call kind of with the person. It's a video call. And so I've probably had, maybe I've been able to connect like 6 times, because you got to go fast because they're sending it out to like, 100,000 people or whatever.
Yeah.
But I've had people that are like, I dropped a piece of fruit and I can't find it in my kitchen. Can you tell me where it is? And so you can tell them, go to the left, go to the right. It's straight ahead. It's here. It's there. I had someone who was like, I think this pant matches with this shirt, but does it? Right. Cause, just different things like that. And so it's just a tiny little 4-minute opportunity to help someone that makes a huge difference in their lives, right? In that moment, I've had people saying, I got this piece of mail. Can you read this to me? I need to know what to do with it. Or I know I'm holding dollars in my hand. Is this a 5 or is this a 10? So it's a really neat service. And I kind of wish there were other kind of like that neighbors for neighbors thing, where you could just like match up with people that need help, right? Like, hey, I'm at Publix and I need somebody. Is anybody nearby? I just need somebody to walk me from here to there. Little things like that,
I love that. And I'm an advocate, and it's a resource I didn't have until I had a conversation. So
yeah,
it's great. It's going to go on the website.
It's super, super cool. You meet the neatest people.
I was going to say, because I've had it on my phone. I think I've only been able to help 2 people, and I think there's more helpers than people who need the help. So,
but that's nice to know.
More visually impaired people who need the help, because I'd love to help, but I don't even get notifications anymore. So
we get them, and I'm always like, kids, look, we got one, and
when you think about it, there's got to be more things like that out there. You just got to look for them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
As they say, there's an app for that.
Oh, all right. Well, we're getting close to winding down. Is there any advice or nugget of wisdom you'd like to leave for our audience before we end the show today?
I guess for me, because advocacy took a little bit to build up to, you can be kind, but you can still be fierce. Like that's that boundary thing too. Like you put them up there. You don't have to be unkind to enforce them, but be fierce in it. Just, you deserve what you give to other people. And if you give them grace and you give them consideration, give it to yourself.
Beautiful.
That's it.
I love it. And I've had people question over the years, like that kindness can be perceived as weakness. And I'm like, kindness is your greatest gift. It is a superpower. And don't let anybody ever mistake it for weakness, because it takes a powerful person to be kind. So, all right. Excellent show. And Check out the show notes to see how you can get in touch with Robin, and to keep the show going, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, give us some comments, share it with your friends and family. And thank you, listeners. I want to wish everybody a magical day.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, ladies. It was great.
Thanks for tuning in to another empowering episode of Voices of the Goddess.
We hope today's conversation has ignited a spark within you, inspiring you to embrace your authenticity and cultivate self-love in your life.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, we invite you to subscribe to our podcast and like, comment, and share it with your friends and loved ones. Your support helps us spread the message of empowerment and healing around the world.
Don't forget to check the show notes for ways to connect with us and today's special guest, and to find additional resources to help you on your journey.
Remember, you are worthy of love, you are worthy of joy, and you are worthy of all the blessings this universe has to offer.
Until next time, remember to honor your truth and spread love wherever you go.